Hey robot makers, do you want to meet other makers like you who created amazing robots? Then keep watching. So my name's Kevin, come with me as we learn to build robots, bring them to life with code and have a whole load of fun along the way. So today we'll be meeting James Bruton, who is the prolific robot maker, YouTuber and is founder of xrobots.co.uk. So let's meet James. So tell me about the first robot that you built. What inspired that and when it started?
So I guess the first robot I built was when I was a child in the 80s, which was made of Meccano and a bit of plywood and an egg box and some chattering teeth. But as an adult, so in around 2004, when I started the website, xrobots.co.uk, and all of those old projects are still there. If you go back and look on the drop-down menu for Android One and so on, it was pretty much I wanted to sort of build a human-sized walking robot, and I'd thought there would probably be like some easy cheat way of doing it, and I looked for websites, but it was a long time ago, obviously in the not quite the dawn of the internet, but a while ago, and obviously couldn't find anything about how to build easy life-size walking robots that walked on two legs. So I thought I'd have a go at making that website.
Yeah.
And so I tried to do this, and it was all plywood and windscreen wiper motors and electric drill motors and pulleys and things, and there wasn't really eBay wasn't really a thing where there's lots of cheap stuff from China. Arduino wasn't really a thing, I don't think. We didn't have 3D printing that was accessible. So it was literally, wood and a hand drill and a saw and bits of studding and nuts and bolts and trying to make these robots.
Yeah.
And Android 1 didn't actually walk. I can't remember if 2 did. I think 3 did hobble along, and so those are some of the oldest videos on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Although I didn't actually have the channel till 2007, so they've been uploaded retrospectively. But
Yeah.
the pictures are actually all there on the website if you go back and have a look.
Yeah. You've not always done robots either, have you? Before that, you did some cosplay stuff.
Yeah, so the alien Xenomorph costume, I did one that was all latex. I don't think that's on YouTube though, but there's pictures on the website.
Yeah.
One that was 3D printed with hybrid prints and a dual extruder with flexible and rigid parts together. A lot of Iron Man stuff, so one Iron Man suit. And the Hulkbuster suit as well, which did have animatronics and bits of stuff in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the videos got a lot more views in those days because they all had Iron Man in the thumbnail.
Yeah.
And Iron Man hadn't had so many movies out at the time, I guess. So
yeah. People have Iron Man fatigue now. So where's Hulkbuster now then? Is it a lock-up somewhere or?
So I don't have that anymore. That went, I think, to a place in Coventry. There was some sort of art, so creative space or something, and they took it and put it on display at one end.
Yeah.
That was a number of years ago, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was before I found your channel. I can't remember what the first video is that I saw of your channel, but yeah. That was probably slightly before I'd found it. Yeah, I don't think I'd seen any of the Iron Man ones, or I might have seen them. I think I did see the one where you built Iron Man costume over a long period of time. But yeah, I've not really subscribed at that point, I don't think.
Yeah, there's still 50 videos about that suit.
50
about
videos.
Building all the parts,
Yeah. Would you recommend people have a go at that? Is it fun?
I think I didn't have a 3D printer really for most of that, so it was all made of foam, and then I sealed it and made molds and casts in fiberglass and polyurethane and stuff, and then eventually, like some of the internal frame, the mounting is aluminium strips and rivets, and then eventually I got a 3D printer and some of it's 3D printed.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot easier now. You can probably just download the CAD and print one.
Yeah. I'm always surprised as well when you see a movie prop in real life and just how it doesn't live up to your expectations, what you would expect it to be. I was watching a video recently, is it Grim Life Collective? They went and visited this guy who collects Tron memorabilia, and he had the actual Tron helmet that was worn in the first film, and you look at it and it's like carved out polystyrene. It's really poor. There's like little black go faster stripes on it and stuff. It just looks dreadful up close, and he's had one professionally made that fits him perfectly. And that's probably cost him tens of thousands, but it does look perfect. So it's always surprising, I think, to see what the actual thing that you hold in your... Yeah.
I don't know what... I guess the Tron 1 stuff's quite a few years old now, though, so...
Yeah.
Wear and tear as well, but
Yeah. So, James, tell me about your favourite project of 2021.
So I think my favourite projects are generally the ones that do the best on YouTube. And I mentioned earlier that people tend to like a simple mechanism rather than some AI robot. So my favourite project of 2021 is the ball-wheeled robot.
Awesome. And that's got some really unusual
So,
characteristics, hasn't it, with the wheels and...
yeah, so each of the wheels is basically a ball of 2 hemispheres,
Yeah.
which are it's a bit like omni-wheels, so they're passive in one direction and they're motorized in the other, and there's 3 of them, so it uses sort of inverse kinematics to drive. You could have 4 of them, just like omni-wheels on mechanism wheels.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually invent this idea. This is a university, which I've forgotten what they were called, a Japanese university, but it's in the video, who actually came up with this idea, and I basically completely copied it and put it on this robot. But I think the videos have had in excess of 700,000 views each.
Wow.
There's one about making one of these and then making the robot and driving it.
Yeah.
And basically it's because it looks really weird, because you can't really imagine how it would roll around on balls. And there's this whole thing about the Goodyear ball-shaped tyre that they made as well.
Yeah.
Which no one really understood how it's going to work. So I think that's been my favourite project because it's been popular, but basically because it looks weird and it's actually really simple.
Yeah.
And I want to make one I can ride on.
Fantastic.
So that's
like a tricycle ball.
They'll probably have 4. It could have 4 wheels,
yeah,
just like omni wheels, and then have them just facing out, like a star basically.
Yeah.
3 would do, but it's just a case of how do you make balls that are big to ride on.
Yeah.
So I think they'd have to be the plan. I think is going to be a CNC cut kind of slot together.
Yeah.
Whatever lattice. And on every place where the wood joins, I'll have a recess with a tennis ball stuck in.
Yeah.
So every ball wheel is covered in loads of balls, because tennis balls, if you've watched the hydraulic press channel, they tried to crush a tennis ball.
Yeah.
You can put quite a lot of load on them.
You bounce back.
So yeah. Yeah.
So there's a really great question from Liz Clark from Bliss City DIY. And she was asking, if you had unlimited funds, unlimited time, what would you be working on?
Oh well, that's a question that's come up actually when I've spoken to other YouTubers, and the answer was getting helicopters and trying to lift up the White House was what came out in the end. But unlimited. I mean, it's a bit of an open-ended question, isn't it, when it's unlimited? Yeah. But I'm pretty sensible actually, so I'd probably get like a business premises and a workshop and employ people and then vlog about that.
Yeah.
Everyone doing I would end up like the Hacksmith. Or something. What I'd probably do is employ better software people to make better robot dogs.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the sensible answer there, not lifting up the White House with helicopters. But yeah, I mean, you've probably watched Colin Firth's channel and he's digging that tunnel under his house and all of that stuff. So I mean, that kind of appeals, if you can do anything. But from a robotics point of view, probably better get people to do software for me.
Yeah. I always wonder myself what I would do there. I don't know what I would do. I'd probably try and build a robot like a C-3PO, biped robot that can self-balance and can do tasks like ironing and putting the washing away. Things that seem quite trivial, but when you come to try and make something that does that, it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
So I'll probably work on something like that. I was fascinated by Elon Musk talking about building a robot, and I thought, is this just a distraction to distract people from what was going on at the time, or is he really wanting to do that? Because building cars is one thing, but building a humanoid robot that no one else has built yet that can... Well,
Boston Dynamics have got, their robots, so it's possible to make something that walks on 2 legs.
Yeah, but the picture that he had, which was just like an iRobot from the film, I was wondering, how long would the battery last? Would it have to run off every couple of minutes and change its batteries? And don't know.
Oh, probably. I mean, this robot dog eats through batteries. It's drawing hundreds of amps basically when it's walking. So
yeah. Even when it's just standing still, it's just putting a lot of power just to keep balancing and
This one's not so bad, but the other one, the motors get too hot to touch.
Oh wow.
5-to-1 reduction. The motors eventually start, the smell of burning enamel on the windings and everything.
Wow.
Even now, it's got like those elastic bands that help pull the legs back up, so it doesn't take so much load. And even then, TCT show, it started to smell. And I was like, those motors are pretty hot. It's time to let it cool off a bit. The 10-to-1's not so bad.
Yeah.
But it's still in excess of 200 amps when it's going. So.
So what do you use for that?
Is it 12 motors? Just drone Lipos,
Oh right, yeah.
I don't know if there's one in here actually. Yeah, it's a 60C. like 6 cell.
Oh wow, I thought it'd be a lot bigger than that.
It's
Yeah.
only 4,000 million. I could put it would carry 2.
Yeah.
But I just got 1 in there. Yeah. So 60C at 4,000 milliamp hour. So so that's 240 amps. But I use this one's gone a bit bulgy because I used it in OpenDog 2 and it drew in excess of 300 amps. So the light, when they shouldn't get hot.
Yeah.
But they do. So that's not so good. But yeah.
So did you have to have a number of them when you go to like a show like the NEC? You have to have a whole pack of them, or do you...
I've got 4 of them at the moment. Yeah, but I tend to not do demos all the time. I'll have I just did 1 actually at TCT, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe I did 1 each day. But when I do make Essential, I'll probably have a lot more batteries, and then I'll have a board that says next robot demo is at 2 p.m. And then
have a robotic board that
points. Get all the robots out, put them all away, and the next one I'll do like 4 a day or something.
Yeah. So tell me about your biggest failure and what did you learn from it? It's like an interview question, isn't it?
Oh, it's probably OpenDog 1, I think.
Yeah. So how did that fail?
Well, it didn't really fail. I mean, it worked the best. So I thought through the kinematics and the mechanics and it being strong enough and powerful enough.
Yeah.
And all of that was fine. But then I hadn't really considered the dynamics of how a robot walks without big flat feet. So I did quite a lot of videos on that robot, and I did all sorts of things like trying to put strain gauges in its legs and and feet with sensors and all sorts of stuff. But it just wasn't really going to cut it. So
yeah.
But yeah, I learned quite a lot about inverse kinematics and the interpolation engine and all of the stuff that runs on there.
Yeah.
And quite a bit more about O drives and using faster processors like the Teensy 4.1 and so on. So
yeah.
Pretty much a lot of that stuff just got lifted out and put into OpenDog 2. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always surprised that the processors used. I would have imagined you need something like a Jetson Nano just to control the thing, but I guess some of the movements are quite slow. The measurements they need to take don't require a really fast processor. But
the Teensy 4.1 is an ARM Cortex M7, so it's the most powerful microcontroller I think you can buy.
Yeah.
And I'm still clocking it down to 100 hertz. It would go a lot quicker, but it just means all my filters and stuff work properly.
Yeah. But
yeah, so the next plan is to read back the encoder counts and work out how much force is on the joints based on where they should be and where they are.
Yeah.
And that's going to need to go a lot quicker, I think. I don't know if it'll actually be quick enough to have one processor reading and writing all 6 O drives.
Yeah.
I might need to just take a step back and do another video where I make another leg and have one microcontroller with each O drive so that it can read and write a lot quicker. And then the argument is just run, the O drive is open source and it's an STM32 on board, so you might as well just actually write that into the firmware. That's why I don't have the skills, because I've never programmed an STM32. And then you could say, become this compliant.
Yeah.
And that would be a single command you send, and then the O drive would deal with it, which is totally possible if I knew how to do it. But we'll see. It's all open-ended development. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I find that obviously I'm not doing this full time, I'm just doing it for a hobby, but I spend a certain amount of time researching and learning, and then the rest of the time building and making it work for the video, because I always want something you can see for the video. I mean, obviously sometimes there's video content, if it doesn't work, that's a story, but it's always more satisfying personally, isn't it, if it does actually do what you intended to do.
Yeah, I never bite off too much at once, so if I... O drive is something I'm really comfortable with. A lot of Arduino libraries, the PID library and so on, I'm really comfortable with. The NRF24L01 that's in the remote for that, I'm really comfortable with. So I tend to reuse those building blocks quite often. And if something new comes along, then I'll only use one new thing in that project rather than saying, hey, I've seen all 5 new things. We'll put them all in one project at once. I've never used them because there's just no chance I'm going to get that video done on in time. Something will happen. There'll be some conflict even with 2 different Arduino libraries.
Yeah. So the next question I've got: what advice would you give to somebody wanting to pursue a career similar to yours, asking for a friend?
Wait, a YouTube career or a robotics?
A YouTube career.
A YouTube career.
Yep.
It's a really difficult question. I don't even know if I know the answer because YouTube's so diverse these days. I don't really. I mean, my views aren't as good as other channels who've got less subscribers, right?
Yeah.
The only one thing I can see consistently is the channels that put out less videos tend to have higher view counts. So I think with mine, it's like the content's become commoditized. So
Yeah.
you know there's a video every week. If you just look at it and go, I don't want to watch that, I'll just, be another video next week. You're almost competing with whoever's put out new videos at that time.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like Tom Stanton, who does one video a month, if that, everyone watches it because there's only one, and the next one won't be for another month. Same with Mark Rober and a lot of the other bigger maker channels.
Yeah.
So I'd say if you're not already dependent on the income of having the regular videos, then just make the best video you can and put it out when it's ready, rather than trying to do weekly.
Yeah. Have you thought about changing, pivoting and doing less videos? Because it's a frightening thought to change, isn't it?
Yeah, well, so every video's got, as well as Patreon patrons and YouTube channel members funding it, every video's got a 60-second ad spot in.
Yeah.
Which I kind of rely on. So I don't know if I didn't do a video for a month, whether I'd get 4 times as many views.
Yeah.
It would take a while. So yeah, I could. I mean, I have dropped videos this year.
Yeah.
I haven't done one every week. I've had a week where if there's 5 Tuesdays in the month, because Tuesday's my publishing day, then maybe I've dropped one.
Yeah.
But typically that's because I was building the mouth robot for the Secret Santa, because it had to be done in advance. So I had something else going on. When there's a break, I'm not actually taking a break. I'm just trying to catch up and get back onto the week with my 2 weeks ahead or whatever I'm supposed to be doing. So, or I'm doing Open Dog, and that just appeared in 1 week, the whole thing. The next week I put all the electronics in. The third week it was walking.
Yeah.
And it took more than a week to do each of those videos.
Yeah.
So something has to give there.
Yeah. Well, I guess you have to be a jack of all trades behind the scenes as well. You've got to be a marketer, you've got to be a publisher and a salesperson, and there's quite a lot going on, isn't there?
Yeah, I actually have an agent who deals with negotiating the contracts for the ad spots and things. When I did the Battlefield promo, where we covered this in camo and all of that, I have an agent who was dealing with the contracts, and there was another agency between them and EA, who owned the Battlefield franchise. So there was quite a lot of stuff going on in the background there.
Yeah, and the Transformers
essentially pay someone else to do.
Yeah, that Transformers rope, that was amazing with the Beetle.
Yeah, I mean, it was fairly short time scales, but yeah, we got there in the end.
Yeah, just because of the scale of it. So where is that now? Is that the scrapyard, or is that...
It contractually had to be destroyed, because they didn't want me going around doing Transformer shows at events.
Yeah.
So, it all got broken down.
Yeah.
I mean, I've still got the pneumatic cylinders, and
in
fact, this robot that I just had a minute ago, these motors are the arm motors out of Bumblebee.
Wow.
That operated the elbow and the shoulder, which were basically these motors, which are gearhead motors. But then I had a 3D printed pulley on them.
Yeah.
And I had basically a nylon cord that went round another pulley multiple times, because it never needed to go round and round and round, because the arm only moved that much.
Yeah.
And that was how the arms worked, even though they were like 3 meters long or whatever. They were about 2 meters long. It was these actual motors. So yeah, I just keep recycling the same parts.
Recycling is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about the best resources that help you along the way. So other people watching this will be thinking, what do I need to get, or where's a go-to? So a resource could be tools that you've got, or information.
Yeah, so I don't look up a lot of new stuff these days.
Yeah.
So apart from learning ROS, which I just I basically bought a turtle bot, and then I got some of that code and looked at some other projects people had done online and so on.
Yeah.
A lot of the time I'm looking at my own GitHub to find out how I wrote code to do a thing in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I buy a lot of stuff off Amazon to get the videos done in time, a lot of stuff off eBay and other suppliers, most of which are now featured in the videos. So yeah, like Cool Components and Simply Bearings and Tross and Robotics and 3D Fuel, who supply all my filament, and Lolspot 3D printers. So yeah, I think get something you're comfortable with. If you want to basically to get into this, you probably want to learn how to program an Arduino and go through the Adafruit Arduino learning guide.
Yeah.
To do the basic code, and I still go back to those now to remember how to do multitasking or copy it from my own code.
Yeah. And some things are really difficult to get your head around, I think, like inverse kinematics. I think when you first come across that, it's like, this is trigonometry, this is high school stuff, because it is quite simple, but when it starts going in 3 axes, you've got to just get your head around it, I think. You've just got to spend the time, haven't you?
Yeah, and I don't even know if I'm doing it the best way. I did it the way I worked out doing it, by drawing triangles on the CAD of the Open Dog 1. I think there's probably better ways of doing it. Certainly, if you do it in ROS, you don't even need to do it. You just use someone else's code it uses the like XML file that I can't remember the name of, that's got all the joints defined.
Yeah.
And then sorts itself out through. And there's other ways of doing it iteratively as well, by saying like, have I moved? Am I getting any closer? No. Oh, I need to move this a bit. How about now? How about now? How about now? And it's supposed to be better for estimating the velocity of the dog in motion and inverse Jacobian matrices and stuff that I just have no concept of at all. So I always do it the high school trigonometry way.
Yeah.
Because I understand the code, then I can find out what's gone wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there's satisfying about understanding how it works, and you've written the code yourself rather than just using somebody's
explain
library. Exactly. You can explain it to others. We'll think he's so knowledgeable about this. It's so simple. But I love that on the when you was explaining the inverse kinematics one, that triggered me to go and learn how that worked myself. And just where you sort of had the 3D model but printed out on 2D, and you drew the lines and the triangles, it just made total sense. So yeah.
Yep, good.
Yeah. So tell me some people who have inspired you along your journey with robotics.
It's a difficult one. I guess Boston Dynamics, really, because they make it look easy. So but yeah, I think I didn't always do robotics on YouTube. That's the other thing. So
yeah, you did a lot of cosplay, didn't you?
Iron Man cosplays and other pop culture stuff and things like that. So
yeah.
So in terms of YouTube, I think there's probably other YouTubers who I watched and then I overtook, and they've stopped making videos. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of the motivation, it's really just. I think doing weekly videos is actually really motivating, because you've got to get something done.
Yeah.
I think if I did less than that, I'd be really lazy. Yeah, robotics itself, I guess. Yeah, I don't know really. Just whatever I can find. And sometimes I don't do robotics. So I did like the Barcode scanner guitar.
Yes.
Which is still in the back corner here. Which was because I just found this thing on Twitter. I thought I'll make one of those. So.
And the vacuum cleaner with the that plays Toto, the
Henry
Africa
Hoover pipe organ.
Oh, that is amazing. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I've still got that. Oh, I did that video with Lily Ashton, who's another YouTuber.
Yeah.
Who'd done a video about why Henry Hoover and Danny DeVito are the same. And I went up. I can't remember how we came about this, but I decided that I should put funnier stuff in my YouTube channel. So I went and met her in London, and we were like, "What video should we do?" And then I can't remember how we came up with Henry Hoover pipe organ, but anyway, yeah, we did. And then she came down and she did like the monologue on the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's really what made the video, because the retention is much better on that. As soon as you hear Henry Hoover play Africa by Toto, everyone switches off. It goes up when she comes on the screen. So yeah, it did quite a lot of views in the day.
Yeah.
Like 5 times the average, and it came out on April the 1st as well. So
yeah,
it was a perfect storm.
That's it.
I've still got that.
You've still got that. Fantastic. Does it play other tunes?
Yeah, it does. So I did. I took it to Maker Central into the last one, which was 2018 or 19, and yeah, it plays like Queen "Don't Stop Me Now," the theme to Pokemon, and the music to Friends. There's some video in of Henry Hoover goes to Maker Central.
I mean, that must be a thing in itself, just getting these very strange exhibits to where they're going. I'd hate to get it there, then it all be broken apart, and you've got to do a quick repair.
Yeah, I've got 3x3 meters this year, so yeah, I need to hire a van.
Yeah. So tell me about one myth in this profession or this field that you want to debunk. Is there anything that people always think, possibly about you only do robots?
YouTube or in robotics?
Either, to be honest. Yeah,
YouTube. The YouTube myth is you have to do regular videos.
Yep.
You don't have to do weekly, as many channels have demonstrated.
Yeah.
Robotics, I don't know. I guess it depends whose myth it is.
Yeah. So if you were starting again, what would you do differently?
Oh, okay. That's the better way to put it, isn't it?
Let's do that.
Yeah, I would stick to one thing and not change my whole channel halfway through. Although Iron Man suits and stuff had electronics in, and bits of animatronics, they weren't really robotics. So so there's a bit of a long-winded story about this. So my top viewed video had 80 million views on, which was the 4-minute compilation of building an Iron Man suit over 4 years.
Yeah.
And it still had up to about a year and a half or something ago, it had about 1 million views a month. And let me just see, what year are we now? So in September 2019, for 10 days straight, it did 1 million views a day. For some reason, the algorithm decided to push views to it. But the problem is that, well, for a start, all the views are in places like Brazil and Thailand and Mexico, where advertising rates aren't so good.
Yeah.
But also, if you watch a video on YouTube from a channel that you're not subscribed to, YouTube will keep feeding you more videos from that channel.
Yeah.
So what was happening was people were finding this viral video, which YouTube was pushing to them because they like pop culture. They're watching it, and then the next videos they get were all my new videos, which were about, at the time, like navigating robots using rods,
Yeah.
which they presumably didn't click on or didn't watch very much of, which meant click-through was really bad, and my whole channel went down, despite having this 80 million view video. So basically I deleted that, I marked that video private, along with a lot of other heavy-hitting Iron Man content.
Yeah.
And then slowly over 2021, I know maybe it was 2020, I can't remember what, it's 2022 now. Yeah, anyway, the next year, which was the last year we just had, everything's gone much better because people are subscribing for content that's relevant and then seeing more content the same. So clicking on it instead of not clicking on it. So yeah, I'd highly advise to not change what you do halfway through, which you probably won't.
Yeah.
I guess channels that have done well, like Tom Stanton's always done a physics thing or a flying machine or something like that.
Yeah.
And stuck with it.
And it's the sticking with it, I think, that's the hard part as well, isn't it? Because you want to, when you're creating this yourself, you want something that's interesting to create just from a personal satisfaction point of view. And also you want to satisfy the audience that's, paying for the adverts to make this a career for you. So it's you don't want to get trapped into a box where you're only ever making the same thing again and again and again and again. But at the same time, that's what people want and that's what they expect from you. So yeah, it's difficult to pivot, isn't it? I think you'd have to do it over a long time.
It is. I think the only transformation I'll make, as I kind of mentioned earlier, is to build some sort of bigger things like the ball-wheel robot one I can ride on, and I've got some other crazy ideas for some other projects that I've got coming up. So,
and does weird perform well? Should I do some more weird videos?
Well, it depends how weird. I mean, one of the ones I've got, I'm not going to tell you what it looks like. It's going to be like Tom Stanton did a wheelie cheat device for his bike that pulled the back brake on when he tipped over too much, so he didn't. He could just pedal flat out, and he'd always do a wheelie, and it was perfect. So I'm going to build a handstand cheat device.
Awesome.
But I'm not going to tell you what it looks like because I'm not sure it'll actually work yet.
That's it. So, do you ever could have the route of building something that you're sure is going to work, and then it doesn't work, and then you've run out of time, and you've got to do a video? Or do you just have something in reserve just in case?
Well, the ornithopter's a good example of that, yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's always a learning exercise about why doesn't it work.
Yeah.
But if it was something, like the handstand cheat device, and I build the whole thing and it just doesn't work at all, then so sometimes I guess I'll have to do some stuff in the background and kind of see, does this concept work,
Yeah.
before I carry on.
Yeah.
But I mean, OpenDog 3 is a good example because I spent ages testing the cycloidal drives, building one leg, checking that, how much force I could put on it.
Yeah.
And having built the previous version that I knew already walked, then I was pretty certain that it was going to work and it wasn't just going to be a total failure. So bite off a little bit at a time. Yeah. Normally.
I'm actually surprised that worked as well as it did. I would have thought making something quite complicated inside in the way that it moves around would just either rattle itself to pieces but it really works well, doesn't it?
So that's one of the reasons I use belt drives to start with, because they're so simple and forgiving. Because the worst is the belt will slip. It won't. There's no gears to break to pieces, and the whole thing's just destroyed. So, but that's why I spent so long on the cycloidal drives. Making two versions and making sure, like pushing myself on a skateboard with it, and testing that it would work. And so far so good. Nothing's broken. It's all PLA still.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a commitment to build 12 cycloidal drives, buy all the motors and the O drives, and then have it all break to pieces.
So you did a video where you was in a park on it was the skateboard one, I think, wasn't it? Or you were testing out the cycloidal drive with this sort of thing on a stick.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And you was in a park. Did you get any strange looks from people on that, or do you just not care?
No, no one really questioned it. It was a cycle lane actually near where I live, but I did some other skateboard projects that people have, like the giant Lego electric skateboard.
Yeah.
I did another one that was just cardboard tubes to see how strong cardboard tubes are. But quite a few people stopped me, like, why are you riding on cardboard, kind of thing. And no one questioned a long stick with a motor on the end.
That's normal. Well, they probably know you by now, don't they? They probably think, it's just that guy with the robots and the Iron Man suit.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how famous I am. Yeah, no, it's not like Colin Furze where everyone knows where he lives and
Yeah.
oh, it's like Colin Furze again.
Do you never have that when you're out at the supermarket or something and people go, "Do you make weird robots on YouTube?"
Occasionally, but not really locally. I got
Yeah.
recognised twice in my nearest IKEA, which is Southampton.
Yeah.
Once by someone who worked on the checkout, and then another time actually in the store by a customer. And on
Yeah.
the same day, I got recognised in the range by someone who worked there as well. So, yeah, it does happen.
One of the things that I was interested to ask you about was your background in, was it toy design, toy manufacture?
Yeah. So.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So. Sort of traditionally, I trained in electronic engineering and everything. That was in the 90s, and I worked in IT for something like 17 years. And then, so the longest job I had was working for Aon Corporation. It was actually a company called Hewitt, and Aon bought them. Aon are the Man U sponsor, which is basically commercial insurance. So I worked there for 10 years in enterprise architecture and IT, server implementation, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
From 2004 to about 2014 to 15. So in that time, basically YouTube came along, 3D printing became really accessible, and Arduino and all that stuff and libraries and all the open source easy modular stuff came along.
Yeah.
And then I started making YouTube videos and putting them on YouTube, and I was building around the end of that sort of time, I was building the R6 droid.
Yeah.
And then Blades Toys in Portsmouth found my YouTube channel and asked me to go down there and chat to them. So that's why I left IT.
Yeah.
It was but on the strength of my YouTube channel that I built up in the time I'd done that one job. So so I was there a couple of years, I think, but I ended up dropping Fridays then to 2 days a week and eventually leaving. So but so Blaze Toys is something like 24% owned by Peter Jones from Dragon's Den, so it's one of his best startup investments. Blades Toys and Reggae Sauce, basically.
I love Reggae Sauce. I always have that on pizzas. So the toy design, that must really help when you're doing 3D design to be printed out. There must be some.
So 3D printing was a big part of it. My role was mostly prototyping and innovation and coming up with concepts and things to show Disney, basically. Unfortunately, I can't tell you anything about any of them.
Sure.
I worked on Hot Wheels. We built that giant Hot Wheels car that we drove through London.
Yeah.
And that was, the big promo thing for the small version that I worked on.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that ever saw the light of day, as far as I know. All of the other stuff I worked on is still probably sat on a shelf there somewhere.
Yeah. I find 3D modelling to be one of those things that takes a long time to get good at. Drawing something in 2D is quite straightforward, but then when you start extruding things out and having to work through how do you create, if you wanted to create this shape, how would you go about creating that shape? And I think there's a process that you must train your brain to go through when it's designing something. So something as complex as like the cyclodal drive, there must be certain steps that you go through when you're designing something like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's down to learning how to use the CAD software you're using.
Yeah.
But I've never really used anything. I used Autodesk 123D Design till they discontinued it, and then they came to my house and said, you should use Fusion now. So now I've used Fusion, and that's been it, really.
Yeah.
I've never really used anything else for 3D design, so I think I'm doing it right. But
I think you are. Yeah. I'm also a Fusion user. I think it's... I find myself using it for all kinds of things. Like when I was building this robot lab, I completely mocked it up in Fusion 3D just so I could get all the dimensions of all the desks right and everything, and it was perfect. So, yeah, I find it's a really good resource to have. The only thing I think it's missing is the rendering engine isn't fantastic. So if you want to, it'd be great to be able to throw it in something like Blender or Substance.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, you could throw it in Blender if you knew how to use it. I don't know if you do, but
I don't.
Never got as far as trying to work out how to rotate the default cube round, and that's about it.
That's it. I did spend a lot of time learning Blender at one point, but that was Blender 2, and it's all changed now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your time today, James. I really appreciate you coming on the channel and giving a quick interview. Really appreciate that. And if anybody hasn't subscribed to your channel, I'm pretty sure 100% of my audience will have already subscribed, but if they've not, I'm sure they'll go and check you out after this as well.
Right, lovely, thanks.
So, thank you for your time.
Thanks for the invite.
Yes, thank you. And I shall see you again. Thanks, James.